Welcome to the Beyond Average podcast, where we go beyond revenue and talk about what really builds enterprise value, leadership culture, connection, and scalable systems through the four intangible capitals. So I'm Kristin Carlson, and joining me today is Min Kyriannis, co-founder and chief executive officer at Amyna Systems, Inc. in New Jersey. She's also board chair for the Women in International Security, vice chair of the board of directors for the Federal Enforcement Homeland Security Foundation, and member of the board of directors of the Security Industry Association. Holy wow, man. You do have a lot of hats. Can you just give us a little bit about your background and then how you started your company and got involved in all these associations?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the technology world for, I would say 25 plus, close to 30 years now at this stage. Gives away my age. But, I've been an owner operator. So I was an operator for a very 20 years. Then I went into the consulting world, but then decided to start my own business. Actually, the business is co-founded by my husband and I. So, in the duration and tenure of all those times, I really had the opportunity to kind of dabble in a lot of areas. And security really was, my passion. And as an operator, we're always kept on our toes. Being a network operator and also a security operator, you get to see what's happening out there quite a bit. And so as for working that long, it's an interesting world. And as you kind of continue through the path, and not just in the professional development side, but also personally, you start taking a look at what's around you. So the organizations you mentioned, the Women International Security, is in much more of an NGO, non-government organization that dabbles in foreign policy and policies, but also engages with promoting leadership for women in the security field, regardless of what positions they are. So these kind of, I would say, philanthropic, altruistic roles kind of come into play because it goes hand in hand with professional development at the same time. Growing up, I never really had the mentorship as a female, a minority as well. And so, taking a chance and taking a look at all these organizations, it gives you an opportunity to kind of work more diligently and cohesively with other groups, just so that we can kind of create a whole entire ecosystem to come play together. So, it just keeps continuing evolving and snowballing, I hate to say. But there are days that I always say, maybe it's time to step down on one. I never get an opportunity to do that because I get drafted for another, but it's all good stuff.
Well, thank you. And thank you for championing women because I came out of the technology world too and was the only woman at the table
Hmm.
most of the time. So, and
That's
I'm
right.
sure in security, it's even
It's about the
more.
same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your company and when did you start it?
Sure. The company was actually established in 2020, but we started it because there was a huge gap in cybersecurity industry, especially in the OT side. Um, it, I'm going to say cybersecurity has been around for decades. We used to call it network security because that's where a lot of it comes from. But realistically speaking, it was not until recently, with the past 10, I would say 10 years, that people say, started trending the word cyber. And there's a huge gap in what we understand about cyber with a lot of folks that's out there. Um, People are accustomed to understanding IT cyber, which is the data side. I deal with the OT, operational technology cyber, which is talking about taking a look and looking at more autonomous devices. So your thermostats, your fridges, your TV systems, but those are more consumer grade. And then you have your electrical grids, your water treatment plants, right? And the list goes on and on. So my background is a lot of it is on the OT cybersecurity side. So going to industry event about 15 years ago, one of the one of the challenges came out that we have so many legacy equipment that's on the network. To date, we have 35 billion devices on the network globally. Just within the United States, there's 7 billion IoT devices on our network. So if you could
Oh,
think about the landscape, the cyber landscape that's out there and how vulnerable it is, we're talking a lot of, threats, attack surfaces for bad actors to come in. And so the challenge back then was we have to figure out an easier solution to remediate some of the challenges with retrofitting older equipment, putting in modern networks. And then the next generation of equipment, how do we secure these equipments from cyber attacks? Because if we think about the purposes of these devices that are being built, they're built with a purpose. They're not built with security in mind, right? They're built with whatever expertise is out there. Our thermostat is there to control temperature, not for security. That's not what
mhm.
they're intended for. But as we start migrating into efficiency and making it more easier for people to access this, people are putting it whatever they can to make it easy for them to actually remotely monitor things. So it's on the network. So now you have this vulnerability that is existing that people aren't really protecting. So we're in that space. We're here to protect these devices, and that's why company Amina was created for that.
Okay, so do you identify these old legacy systems on the network, or how do you?
We do everything. So we're the only deterministic anomaly detection tool with remediation built in. That's what we like to call it. We actually detect every single device that's on the network that's utilizing our technology within 30 minutes that it's plugged into us.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so are you serving just the company and what companies and what they have on the network, or are you serving more public or
We are serving
government?
right now we're B2B. So we're working within the government. We're working with businesses and enterprises that have thousands, if not more, of these IoT devices that sit on the
Mhm.
network. One building that we're working with has over, I would say, about 15,000 devices on their network that they are aware of. I'm going to say the word aware of. There's also passive devices that they're not aware of, right? So this is that's the side that we're serving.
Okay. And so your company started in 2020 and you've grown, you said, to 10 or 15 people in
Well, the company started in 2020, but a lot of it is also development. We actually develop our own code. This is our code. We wrote it ourselves. There has never been any outsourcing. So we officially went to market as of earlier this year. So realistically, if you wanted to say, product deployment, it would be earlier this year, 2026, first quarter is when we started selling.
Okay. And then how did you start hiring and attracting people to your organization?
A lot of it is word of mouth, realistically. We like to call ourselves a very mature startup. I like surrounding myself with a lot of smart people, and I like to continue learning. But realistically, I think it's been a lot of word of mouth, mostly because one, we have tasks that has to be executed, but we're also looking for people that are well-rounded in a sense that they're a good people person. They're good working with together with people. They know how to talk to people, right? And you, Kristen, also coming from the technology world, you know exactly the type of people I'm talking about. It's very hard to find that right person for the right culture. And for us, it was really personality and also expertise in the area. Being a startup, especially in such a complex environment, we're looking for very, very experienced people who actually understand a lot of hardware and programming, like very hardcore programming. And that's not usually people that have no experience. They're going to be people who actually have a lot of experience in the areas and have developed for quite some time.
Right. And one thing I found is that that might be challenging to build a culture in your organization with people that are really super experienced coming in. I mean, have you found that, or how are you building the culture in your organization?
It's interesting that you say that. I will say the folks that we have engaged with are people that we've known for some time, so that established relationship is there. But for newer hires that have come in, a lot of them actually you can see their personality right away when you talk to them. So we've been able to kind of establish that. We're also human, and sometimes we do get led the wrong way, which is the truth. But realistically, I think we learn from our mistakes very quickly, and so we try to pick up the pieces and put the patches in place right away.
Yeah. And do you find, I mean, I would think that the people you find too are very passionate about what you do. And I think that helps too, right? If you all have that passion. I mean, I didn't like security when I was in IT, so I thank the people that do like it. Um, but there's a passion there, right? Because of the cool things that you get to do and what you see and where you can take things.
Well, there is a passion, right? I think it comes to a lot of things and strengths. I'm going to say my strength. I'm better at relationship development. I'm very good technically if I need to be, but because of my role in the company, I let others take the technical read because I can't step on the toes. And two, I think, it's a collaborative environment, and the environment that we're in is we have the ability to speak up, and I encourage folks to speak up too, to challenge us, mostly because that's what makes the product better. And we've been in a lot of working environments, and I'm not going to say currently, but previously my tenure with other jobs, that the environment has been very toxic. And realistically, when you have a toxic environment, you do learn from that and how do you remediate. So we're trying to avoid those kind of environments that can create that kind of animosity within our groups. And that's, as a small team, we're very agile in actually doing that, which is great. I think as we are growing and we're currently in the growth stage, that's going to be a little harder to manage, but I think it also trickles from the top. So as long as our team high up can manage it down, I think we should be okay. And that's what we're trying to establish is the ability to provide freedom for folks to actually challenge, and speak up their minds to make the product better and the environment better.
Right. I mean, I think being able to empower them, right? Because then they'll be open to share ideas, you know.
Well, exactly. And not feel like there's going to be retribution in place because you do see that quite often in the news.
Yeah, and do you, looks like you've had leadership roles within these associations too. I mean, do you like leading and helping others in that area?
I think it's twofold. I enjoy helping others, but I think it's also, again, it comes down to my individual being where I've grown up without the mentorship and tutelage of others who kind of supported me, right? Especially as a woman in a minority. Um, it's giving me opportunity. I think the perfect answer to that is I had a friend who actually had asked me a question. It's like, you're so exhausted with all this. Why aren't you stepping down? And my comment is, as long as I see my peers stepping up, I'm happy to step down. I have yet to see that. And, I'm happy to I've passed the baton on many, many times, and I'm happy to pass the baton on to others. I, the way I put it is if more people step up, then I can start stepping down. I am a mother of two girls, and this is where it's not just empowerment, it's encouragement and training and mindset. And until we actually get the next generation of leaders to start stepping up, it's very hard to step down.
So what can you go into the mindset piece and what you're helping shape your
So,
children? What
of
is,
course. So I get involved with a lot of development in programs, and it's trying to establish a lot of these programs, especially in the grassroots. Kids, especially in schools, are told, "Hey, if you're a girl, this is certain areas that you should be going to." I mean, I was told that as a when the counselor spoke to me, "Oh, go into marketing. You should be technical. You don't need to be an engineer. It's too much for you." You've heard all this.
yes.
It has not migrated. It has not changed much. And it's until recently we started seeing that there's a lot of STEAM programs, STEM programs, STREAM programs, the list goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And really it's changing the mindset of a young girl saying, you shouldn't you are, yes, a young lady, but you also have a mind and you have a very smart mind to go out and actually not just empower yourself, but encourage yourself into doing a lot of these things that you don't think you're capable of. Look, men and women are different. I'll be honest about it. There's a lot of things that men can do I can't do. And I admit it. But there's a lot of things that women can do that men can do, and you can take those strengths and make yourself better at that. And really, it's encouragement like that that helps kids develop the whole mindset. I know I can do this, and I can pursue it without people discouraging me from pursuing it, right? And it's not just education wise, it's also cultural, it's familial. It's a lot of sort of different factors that come with children at the same time. And realistically, it's even for me myself growing up, I will say my mother used to tell me, "Hey, get married to a rich guy, stay home and take care of the kids." That was culturally a cultural thing for me. Um, but I think it's changed. I think the world is evolving very quickly now, and I think kids, their mindset has to shift very quickly. I'm not going to say I'm a feminist. I am not, but I do encourage a lot of young children to actually pursue their dreams and educate themselves as much as they can and get away from the digital hardware that we're so accustomed holding in our hands, um,
Right.
which is, challenging nowadays.
Yeah. And there's just so much negativity in the social media that they're seeing, right? So to keep
Yes.
positive and keep encouraging and
And the peer pressure that goes on along with it all the time too, at the same time.
right.
Yeah.
Excellent. And do you see that too? I think with the women in international security, do you see a similar
So
line?
the Women International Security is much more, obviously a much more mature group. I mean, you have a lot of women like Tammy Duckworth, Bonnie Jenkins, very senior level people that have all came out at Women's National Security. It's in a DC, and I will say, you don't see that as much because these are women who are already educated and on the career path and getting there. I think we're taking a look at it and leveraging it to create a kind of leadership group for younger kids like high school and further down the line to like starting from third grade because development really starts on third grade and up. Um, do I see it there? Not really. I think with the administration where it is, it's a nonpartisan organization, but I think the way the organization is structured, we pivot as needed. So it's a different organization. we're leveraging it to help educate the younger generation to create more women who are leadership or young ladies or young kids who are leaders within industry.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think, do you have any advice for other women leaders and how we can get more involved to support the next generations of girls that are growing up and how we can encourage them to stay in that technical lane?
I think the one thing is not disparage them for their dreams. We've been even culturally, I think, in different environments, there's a tendency of seeing women as a weaker link. And so the disparagement it becomes, hey, you know what, look, let's do something a lot easier. It gets a lot of that. I think it's challenging the kids to think differently and saying, hey, if you think you can do this, go research it and then go understand it, learn as much as you can, and see if you're still interested in it. It's a different way of doing it, I think, versus trying to say, hey, you can't do it because I think it's too hard. Just do something else. I think we should take a look at how we encourage children, and not just girls, but children, in how they think about careers and just getting them educated so they do the research and figure out what they want to do in life and make them passionate about it.
Right. And I was just thinking too of the problem solving too, those problem
Mhm.
solving skills. Like,
Common
we're
sense.
not going to give up. We can figure this out, right? I mean,
100%. It's getting them engaged and getting the research done and letting them understand, getting themselves educated at the topic, instead of just handing to them on a silver platter.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all you're doing. Thank you for what you are doing
Thank
and
you.
supporting our environment and our women. So, thank you.
Kristen, thank you for having me. It's great. Thank you very much.